Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your boy Fitzmonk TV here, aka G-Lauren33. I'm back here tonight with another episode of the Legit Shoot podcast, here with your Monday Night Raw review and results for February 1st, 2021. It is already the first week of February, man. You know, it feels like New Year's was just yesterday. We are already blowing through 2021. We got the Super Bowl this week. Very excited for that, right? Brady versus Mahomes. That's going to be exciting. But you know, tonight we got to focus, of course, on Monday Night Raw, the post fallout of the Royal Rumble. And if you guys haven't yet, I want to remind you really quickly here that we do have the Royal Rumble review that is live on the channel, right? So make sure to go check that out. All right, I made the announcement yesterday. You know, usually, you know, I always go live every single Monday night. That's the way it's been for about a year and a half now. But unfortunately, at least for the next couple weeks, I will not be able to go live on YouTube for any type of video, right? I explained this on the Royal Rumble podcast. I'll mention it very quickly here. Because of a copyright issue with one of my other videos, it's like YouTube turned off my ability to be able to live stream. So until I get that issue fixed, you guys are just gonna have to deal with pre-recorded podcasts. Usually like what I do with SmackDown, you know, but that's the way it's going to be with Raw. We did it with pay-per-views, right, with the Royal Rumble. That's the way it's going to be going forward. And until, you know, I get that copyright issue resolved, that's the way it's going to be. Once we have that all resolved, we'll be back to doing live podcasts every single week. But this is your Monday Night Raw review. Thank you guys so very much for joining me. If you, like I said, check out the Royal Rumble review, all right? Last night's Royal Rumble was a really good show. It was one of the better Rumbles, you know, as a pay-per-view, right? As a pay-per-view, it was one of the better Royal Rumble pay-per-views we've had in the last decade, right? I've seen some people saying it was the best Rumble in a long time. You know, we had Edge winning the men's Royal Rumble, which was, of course, a big thing on tonight's Monday Night Raw. We had the great Sasha Banks versus Carmella match. You know, we had Bianca Belair winning the women's Royal Rumble. We also had, what was it? What else? We had Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens in the Last Man Standing match. And remember, we also had Drew McIntyre versus Goldberg. And there really wasn't anything bad on the show. Even, you know, the Drew McIntyre and Goldberg stuff was okay for what we got. Wasn't anything special, but it was to the point. And, you know, so it was a pretty good Royal Rumble. So go check out the full review, right? I went ham like I always do for you guys. That thing is live, all right? And going to Monday Night Raw tonight, I knew that, you know, some of the stuff that happened on the Rumble would be a big thing, like Damien Priest making his debut tonight. I'm hoping WWE builds him into a big star because we all know he has main event potential written all over him, right? I thought Rhea Ripley, you know, would make her debut on Monday Night Raw tonight, but she wasn't on the show. It looks like Rhea Ripley might be heading to SmackDown. So, you know, I believe Rhea Ripley should be in the Raw Women's Division just because, you know, the Raw Women's Division needs an elevation right now, right? You got Naomi back, which was, you know, big. And I think adding Rhea Ripley would have been, you know, the icing on the cake. You know, having Rhea Ripley, Naomi, Charlotte, Asuka, Alexa Bliss, right? That's a pretty good, you know, women's division. And then you have everybody else, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, right? Everyone else fills it up. But it looks like for right now, it looks like I expect, you know, Ripley to make her debut on SmackDown. And still, that gets me excited because, you know, the potential of a Sasha Banks and Rhea Ripley match, right? Remember, that was teased back at Survivor Series a year and a half ago. And I would love to see a feud between those two. I love Rhea Ripley. She's one of my favorites. And you guys know Sasha is my favorite, right? I will be having a video coming out later this week talking about Sasha and Bianca potentially happening at WrestleMania and, you know, why Sasha has to retain. So that will be a bonus episode of the podcast that will be put out hopefully later this week, right? If I find time to make the video. Also, I'm also thinking about, you know, making another video on why WWE should potentially consider making Sasha and Bianca turn into a triple threat match, right? Because I also think that could be something huge as well if WWE wants to go down that direction, right? Because Bayley kind of deserves a big match going to WrestleMania season, after everything she's done with the company, especially in the last year. So, we'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what's the plan for Bayley there. But we'll talk about that. So make sure you guys are on the lookout for those bonus videos. But all in all, Raw wasn't terrible tonight, right? We had Damien Priest making his debut, Carlito making his return to Raw. I don't know if he's going to be staying full-time or part-time. I don't know what the deal is with him, but, he looks in fabulous shape. He still clearly has it. So it would be interesting to see, if Carlito is going to be back on Raw full-time going forward. Definitely I think he would definitely be some kind of, definitely a boost in that mid-card division. But, all in all, the show wasn't terrible. It wasn't anything special tonight, but it wasn't terrible. It was most likely centered around Edge. And I do got one thing to mention before we talk about Raw tonight. A lot of us believe that the match they should do for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania is Edge versus Drew McIntyre. But I did read a report earlier today from WrestleVotes that it looks like WWE is also highly considering and they're possibly already planning to do Edge versus Roman Reigns. And it's not that I have any complaints with Edge versus Roman Reigns happening at Mania. That's a huge match, right? Edge being the babyface, potentially 10 years after the last time he held the World Heavyweight Championship back in 2011, right? 10 years later, after the huge comeback, coming back in the Royal Rumble last year with, what some people consider the greatest Royal Rumble return of all time. And now, this year, being at the number one entrant and then making it all the way through, lasting over an hour in that match and then winning it from the number one position, right? It's a great story. It's a fantastic story. And especially with Roman Reigns and the level of heel work that he is doing right now, you can't complain with Edge versus Roman Reigns, right? But if we're trying to make the best WrestleMania card possible, the match you do for the Universal Championship, especially with you knowing that there's going to be fans there in Raymond James Stadium and also knowing that it's going to be a 2-night event, right? So clearly on night one, you're going to have the WWE Championship, and on night two, you're going to have the Universal Championship. And whatever they do, if it's Sasha versus Bianca or Sasha versus Bianca and Bayley, that's going to be your third big match, right? And then your fourth big match, will probably be, I don't know if it'll be the Raw Women's Championship. We have no idea where they're going with that. But, if it's it could be potentially be John Cena versus Goldberg, right? Or AJ Styles versus Triple H. I've been hearing those rumors. Or it's some kind of big, match with stars or part-timers. We'll see what happens, right? If you're trying to build the best WrestleMania card possible, clearly the route that you should do is giving us Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns and Edge versus Drew McIntyre, right? And remember, we did see tonight, we'll talk about this more in a sec, but we did see Sheamus turn heel on Drew McIntyre, something we knew that was going to happen months ago. They've been teasing this for months, ever since Sheamus was drafted to Raw, right? And, Sheamus started getting all buddy-buddy with Drew McIntyre. We knew eventually that Sheamus was going to turn. Some of us thought that they could potentially do Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. And I love Sheamus. I do. He's a big name. But Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre, I just don't know if that's a WrestleMania level match. Maybe with the right story and the right care, but, I just don't know if Sheamus is, really meant to be in that big WrestleMania spot. I'm not saying Sheamus isn't a star. That would be disrespectful. I know how great Sheamus is. He's a future Hall of Famer. Just look at his resume and everything that he's done. But I just don't know if Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre is a WrestleMania-worthy match. Definitely, it's, a match I would watch on any other pay-per-view, right? SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, any other pay-per-view. But WrestleMania, I just don't know. And, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if John Cena's going to come back to, challenge McIntyre. It's not going to be Goldberg. We already saw that match at Rumble. Maybe Brock Lesnar returns. We don't know. But if I'm trying to build the biggest WrestleMania card possible, the biggest match you can do on Monday Night Raw with Edge winning the Rumble is Edge versus McIntyre. And it should be Daniel Bryan winning the Elimination Chamber and going on to challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship on SmackDown at WrestleMania. Those would be your two big male matches, right? Your two big world title matches for night 1 and night 2 of WrestleMania. And then everything else fills itself, of course, right? That's what you should be doing. You know, if we eventually get Edge versus Roman Reigns, it's going to be great. I'm not going to say it's not good. It's not. But I think we all know Daniel Bryan should be getting that. You should be in that position. The story writes itself. Right? The Yes Movement going up against Roman and the heel work that he's been doing. Roman getting booed out of the stadium, getting that heel reaction he's always been supposed to get. And now it actually makes sense with him being a full-blown heel. One of the best heels, if not the best heel in the company at the moment. Right? It makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't you capitalize on that? You know, you can always save Edge versus Roman Reigns for later on. If you want to do that at SummerSlam, if you want to do that at Survivor Series, right? Maybe they're both champions at Survivor Series. Maybe Roman ends up winning the WWE Champion or the Universal Championship, you know, later this year. Maybe save that for another WrestleMania. Because right now it seems like Edge is going to be back full time, which should be the case. I love Edge, but I don't want to see him in a part-timing role. Especially if you plan to have him win a title at WrestleMania. That's what you should be doing. All right? And I don't think, you guys are going to disagree with me on that. The route you should be going is Edge versus McIntyre on Raw and Bryan versus Reigns on SmackDown. Anything else really is doing a disservice. Daniel Bryan deserves to be in that spot. And if you want to put the best card together for WrestleMania, that's what you do. Edge versus McIntyre for the WWE title and Roman versus Bryan for the Universal title, right? They did advertise Edge for SmackDown. You know, for the SmackDown commercial, they said that Edge and Bianca Belair, you know, will be looking at their paths for WrestleMania. Bianca was not on Monday Night Raw tonight. We all believe that Bianca is most likely going to challenge Sasha at WrestleMania for the SmackDown Women's title. It's either going to be a one-on-one with Sasha or it's going to be a triple threat with Bayley, right? We don't know. If Rhea Ripley is on SmackDown, I would love to see maybe a side feud with Sasha and Rhea Ripley. I would love to see that. I know we've been talking about who challenged Sasha next. Rhea Ripley would be the perfect opponent to challenge Sasha, going the fast lane, going to the Elimination Chamber. If you plan on having Sasha defend the women's title inside the Elimination Chamber, right? So there's a lot. You know, we're starting to see all these storylines, the plans slowly unfold for WrestleMania. We still have a long way to go. We still have now that we're in February, right? We still have 2 months to go. We still have technically about 10 weeks. 10 weeks till WrestleMania. I believe it's 67 days. Now that it's February 2nd, right? 67 days to go till WrestleMania. So, right, basically we got about 10 weeks to go. So we're going to see this slowly unfold as the weeks go by. But, you know, I want you guys to keep that in the back of your mind. We'll see Edge on SmackDown, and I hope, as much as I would love to see Edge versus Roman Reigns, you know, if I'm putting the biggest card together, Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns is the way that you go. It's really that simple, right? So I guess that will serve as our opening shoot as we get into the Monday Night Raw review tonight, right? So the show started off with Drew McIntyre, right? McIntyre came up, you know, celebrating his victory over Goldberg this Sunday. Praise the Lord, right? I was actually listening to Renee Young's podcast. Renee Young has a new podcast on Colin Cowherd. You guys know the sports media personality. He has a new, podcast network, right? I forget what it's called. I think it's called like The Volume or something like that. Renee Young has her own podcast, and she was covering the Royal Rumble, and even she was talking about how she didn't want to see Goldberg win the WWE title. You know, it's good to actually, hear Renee Young actually get to be organic, actually be herself, right? She doesn't have to say stuff because, she works for WWE. Since she's not employed by the company anymore, she can give her honest thoughts. So it was actually really good to see that. I would highly recommend you guys go listen to Renee's podcast if you guys don't already. But But even Renee was talking about how, she has no interest, right? She's like us at the end of the day. She has no interest seeing Goldberg as champion. Just like none of us have any interest in seeing Goldberg win another title, right? And, no matter what kind of match we got at the Royal Rumble, that's the blessing at the end of the day. The blessing is seeing that, McIntyre is still champion. Because Goldberg being champion, no matter how good the Rumble was, that would have ruined all of our nights. And it would have even been worse if Goldberg had appeared in the Royal Rumble at number 30 and, won. Because we would have all known that he would have went straight after Roman Reigns again. Right? At least for now, it doesn't look like we'll have to deal with Goldberg in the world title picture. If they go down, of course, the Goldberg versus John Cena route, sure, whatever. It is what it is. But let's just be glad we won't have to deal with Goldberg in the world title scene going to WrestleMania this year. That is a blessing, right? So, McIntyre is talking about his win, and he did get to speak long because Edge came out. Right, I heard rumors that Kingston's going to be wrestling a little bit more, and I have no problem with that. I love Edge and Kingston. I would love to see them reunite as a tag team. Maybe they go after the tag team championships at one point. I would not mind that at all. It reminds me kind of a Road to WrestleMania storyline in the old WWE video games. I think it was like WWE SmackDown versus Raw 2009. Right? Let me know in the comment section if you guys remember those games. Those games were the classics. Right? But Edge made his way to the ring. McIntyre showed him a lot of respect here, right? Talking about, how he was in the ring, right? He was in the corner getting beat up by AJ Styles when Edge's music, You Think You Know Me played on the intercom. And he watched everything that Edge has done, right? Because McIntyre was employed by WWE. He was a young rookie before he got released. He was there when Edge was forced to retire and how emotional that was. So McIntyre was explaining that here to Edge. But the thing about it is, Edge asked what was wrong with him, and I love this. Edge is so good, man. It's crazy how Edge, was gone for 10 years, and he comes back, and you could arguably say that Edge is the best promo in WWE. He might actually be the best promo in WWE. He's on CM Punk, John Cena levels of promo. The promos this guy has been cutting, especially since he's been back, has been fantastic, bro. And I feel like those are Edge making this promo. And I don't know who could write. If someone else is writing Edge's promo, they definitely deserve a raise. But this definitely has to be Adam Copeland writing these promos, man. 'Cause I can't see anybody else doing that. These promos have been absolutely epic by Edge. The last year that he's been back. So Edge is saying, "What's wrong with you? I'm the ultimate opportunist. I should be coming in this ring as you should be Claymoring the hell out of me, right? I am the biggest threat possibly for your title. I could choose to face you in the main event of WrestleMania for a chance to become world champion, right? WWE champion. But instead, here you are praising, singing my tune, saying all these good things about me. So I was like, damn, I love this. They don't make characters like this anymore. But I will say this before we go forward. Drew McIntyre, in my opinion, is a star in WWE. The last year, because you think about it, this roller coaster for Drew McIntyre started a year ago. A year ago at the Rumble when he, eliminated Brock Lesnar and went on to win the Rumble. Then went on to WrestleMania to win the WWE Championship against Brock Lesnar in 5 minutes, right? You think about it, McIntyre, this whole Cinderella run for him. He's a star in WWE. He really is. And he's a great babyface, right? Sometimes he can be cringe, but I got to say it. McIntyre is a big star. He might be WWE's top babyface up there with Sasha Banks. He might just be the top babyface in the company. Sasha and Drew, man, they're just so good as babyfaces. I honestly don't want to see Drew turn heel. He's really that good, all right? And I feel like I view Drew now as possibly the biggest star in the company, right up there with Sasha, the Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, those names, right? So, as Edge is talking, Edge is saying, you will know, who I'm going for. Remember, Edge is most likely going to be on SmackDown. So, if we don't find on SmackDown, I do expect Edge to let us know who he's going to face at WrestleMania here in the next week or so, right? So, Then Sheamus made his way to the ring, and I could kind of see where this was going from the jump, right? So Sheamus came out and got in Edge's face, but McIntyre backed him off, right? McIntyre asked Edge if he was challenging him for the title. Edge said he's the ultimate opportunist and will assess the situation before making a decision, right? Edge said no matter who he chooses, he's walking out of WrestleMania with the title, which I do think is likely, right? And Edge left as Sheamus and McIntyre were in the ring, right? And Sheamus waited until McIntyre had his back turned, and then he hit him with a bro kick, and that was the end of the segment. But, backstage, Charlie Caruso asked Sheamus what was the thing about that? Why did you turn? And Sheamus said, ever since I got the Money Night Raw, all I'm looked at as is Drew's best friend. I'm tired of that, right? And all I want is to become WWE champion. And like I said, we have been expecting this for months. Ever since Sheamus came to Monday Night Raw, we have been expecting Sheamus to turn on Drew McIntyre. And it has finally happened. And, I'm excited for this, right? One thing I got to say about Drew is, at the beginning of his run, they were just going through challengers left and right, right? They did Seth Rollins and then Bobby Lashley and Dolph Ziggler and Randy Orton. They were just going through challenger after challenger after challenger. And then luckily with the draft, of course, they were able to make some new challengers for Drew, right? You got AJ Styles, you got Goldberg, right? So McIntyre's had a really, really good run as WWE champion. Sheamus has been the he also had Keith Lee, right? Remember that? And now here we are with Sheamus. But here you have the best friend turning on another best friend. Sheamus turning heel. And the thing is, Sheamus has been pretty good as a babyface. I've enjoyed him, But we all know Sheamus is just as good, if not better, as a heel. And this is clearly going to be the feud that gets Drew McIntyre from, now, the night after the Rumble to WrestleMania. Clearly, this match is going to happen at the Elimination Chamber. I can also see this feud going in the WWE Fastlane, right? And then hopefully it leads us to Drew McIntyre versus Edge. That's the match we want to see. You guys have already heard me say it, multiple times here on the podcast tonight. But we are going to have to wait and see what they actually plan to do here with Edge and Drew McIntyre. I don't expect Sheamus to be the one to take the title off of Drew. If Drew's going to lose the title, it's going to be at Mania, right? Most likely. But this is a feud we've been waiting for. Like I said earlier, some people think this is a feud that can go all the way into WrestleMania. I don't agree with that, right? But it's something to definitely be mindful of, going forward. And, we'll just have to see how it all goes. I am excited for this. Drew did cut a promo, earlier on, and Drew said he would take Sheamus down. Wasn't anything special. But, we'll see where this feud goes. It's funny that because Keith Lee, they had Keith Lee go up to Sheamus multiple times and say, we're all expecting you to turn on Drew McIntyre. And now it's finally happened, right? So once, Keith Lee comes back from, recovering from COVID, that's good, that's going to be something I'm waiting to hear Keith say. But, it wasn't a bad segment. It did its job. And, like I said, we will see where this feud go. I expect them to have, two, maybe even 3 matches here in the next couple months as we get closer and closer to WrestleMania. And I expect, this to be good stuff. I expect this to be really good, one more really good feud for Drew McIntyre before he most likely drops that title at WrestleMania. Next up, we had Bobby Lashley versus Matt Riddle for the United States Championship. If you guys remember, this match was set up via Matt Riddle winning the gauntlet match against the Hurt Business last week on Raw. But, we've seen this match multiple times, and at this point, I'm kind of over this because they're doing the same thing every single time, it feels like. I know that Riddle and Lashley, if given the time, we know that they could absolutely tear the house down. They could give you an absolute banger. But it seems like every single time where, they're about to give us the match, they decide to do some kind of fuck finish or disqualification. And, it just leads us to nothing. It leads us to nothing at the end of the day, right? So MVP was at ringside for the match, and Riddle tried to rush Lashley as soon as the ref called for the bell, but of course Lashley didn't go down easily. He easily overpowered Riddle and slammed him hard on the mat. He delivered a vertical suplex, and then Matt Riddle was able to make a little comeback. Excuse me. He was able to make a little bit of a comeback. He hit a floating bro. Then Lashley recovered and put him in the hurt lock on the apron. Then the ref counted the 5 and did a disqualification because Lashley did not release the hold. And then he grabbed Riddle in the hold again, put him to sleep. The referee tried to break it up, but then Lashley took it to the outside and actually threw Riddle over the barricade. Where the Thunderdome screens were, the virtual screens for the fans, right? So it was, it wasn't bad. It's just that I'm kind of over this. We've seen this match, 3 times now, and it basically ends the same way every single time. As one thing I will say, Bobby Lashley, the veins that he has, man, those are, they're absolutely crazy. The guy's ripped, right? And I loved how Bobby Lashley is booked, but I want to see Bobby Lashley have some actual matches. I do. We all know how dominant Bobby Lashley is, right? The guy should be a world champion. But, it's the same thing with him all the time. Hurt lock, disqualification, really. That's what it is. We never get to see any special matches, with his opponents because it almost ends in the same way. I know that Riddle and Lashley could give us a damn good 15 to 20 minute match if they were given the opportunity, but they keep doing this disqualification nonsense. I don't know if this is going to lead to Riddle getting another match, but the thing about it is every time I see it and they do some kind of fuck finish, DQ style, whatever you want to call it, it makes me want to see the match again less and less and less. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way, but let me know, guys, what you guys think. If I'm being honest, that's just the way I feel. I'm kind of over it at this point, but we'll see where they go with it, right? But I'm thinking, with Damien Priest, right? Damien Priest making his debut tonight, he officially being on Monday Night Raw. I think, a Damien Priest versus Bobby Lashley match for the United States title, potentially going to WrestleMania, right? You build up Damien Priest over the next couple months. You build a new star. Damien Priest, he was the NXT North American Championship. I feel like him being the U.S. champion and, that being the first title he wins, especially with him as a babyface at the moment, that would be the perfect way because Damien Priest looks like a star. And I hope he doesn't end up like all his other predecessors, right? All his other NXT brethren that were called up to the main roster and misused. We don't have to go through the list, of course. Damien Priest has that star look about him. He looks like a star. And I hope that WWE plans to do right by Damien Priest. I would absolutely love to see a Damien Priest versus Bobby Lashley potential match going into WrestleMania if WWE chooses to go down that direction. We'll just have to, wait and see, of course. But I really feel like that should be, what WWE plans to do going forward for the United States Championship if they don't have any other plans here with the Matt Riddle feud. Moving on, we had Xavier Woods versus Mustafa Ali. Kofi Kingston made his appearance, made his return to Monday Night Raw. Remember, Kofi has not been cleared to return yet, right? Remember, he still has the broken jaw. He was at the Royal Rumble, and it's very windy outside, man. Here on the East Coast, we're getting a blizzard, right? So the snow's been going crazy, but. So if you guys hear, stuff going outside, that's, outside, this is the wind. But, I got to give the New Day credit and another shout out to them. The Brody Lee gear, right? The tribute to Brody Lee with their ring gear last night was absolutely phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. I know a lot of people also loved it on social media. Love the New Day, right? But Kofi was back on Raw tonight as he was there to support Xavier Woods in his match against Mustafa Ali. Remember this mini feud with Xavier versus Retribution's been going on now here for a month, right? Kofi talked a lot of crap. Yeah, Kofi talked a lot of crap to Xavier, or not Kofi. Ali talked a lot of crap to Xavier Woods here, or not Xavier Woods. Ali talked a lot of crap to Kofi, right? Because we all know Ali's still angry at Kofi, for taking his spot at WrestleMania last year, when Ali was injured, and the whole Kofi Mania stuff, right? So basically, the Retribution tried to, intimidate Kofi Kingston. Woods inside the ring hit Ali with a discus clothesline. Kingston took out Mace, and Woods was able to use this because Ali got distracted. He was able to take advantage and pin Ali. So basically, now, with Xavier versus Retribution, it's 2-2. So, could we have the break the tide next week, right? Maybe that will be Kofi. Maybe it'll be some kind of tag team match, right? Because if Kofi's back now, he's most likely going to be medically cleared here in the next couple of weeks. So, of course, we'll see what happens. Let me try to turn on the light. The light's glaring in my face. But we'll see if anything happens, with that, of course, over the next couple of weeks. Not that I really care about this stuff, right? Kind of still care about Retribution that much. But we'll see. We'll see if this actually leads somewhere. It's not that I don't really expect it to, right? Next up, we had Miz TV. Miz TV. So Miz TV, with Bad Bunny being the guest. If you guys remember last night, the Royal Rumble, the Miz, messed up with Bad Bunny's, DJ set, right? His whole set. And basically, because of that allowed Damien Priest to eliminate both Miz and Morrison, in the Royal Rumble. And then we also had Bad Bunny hitting a crossbody from the top, rope, taking out both Miz and Morrison. So basically, they wanted to continue with that. Clearly a ratings play, right? Trying to get a big star, on the show, a celebrity, of course, to, try to get a big ratings, pop for Monday Night Raw. So The Miz gave Bad Bunny a really cool introduction here, not gonna lie. They showed a replay of what happened at the Rumble. The Miz tried to apologize for destroying Bunny's equipment. Bunny accepted the apology, but refused to offer his own because Miz wanted an apology for costing Miz and Morrison a chance to win the Royal Rumble. So then we had Miz and Morrison singing him a song. This was absolutely awful. This is the kind of cringe stuff that I hate that WWE does, right? They're trying to be entertaining, but there was nothing entertaining about this at all, right? They also offered to train him as a WWE superstar. Bunny said that he wasn't interested. And then, Miz Morrison got angry. And then Bad Bunny says he didn't come on Miz TV because he wanted to. He was just on the show because a good friend of him wanted him to be there. And that's when we saw Damien Priest make his debut. I love the way Damien Priest's entrance looked there in the Thunderdome, right? With the graphics and everything. So we'll see. Like I said, Damien Priest has the look of an absolute star. And if WWE was smart, they would build him up to be the one to challenge Bobby Lashley for the United States Championship going into WrestleMania, right? So he got into the ring. He choked The Miz. And then we came back from break and we got Damien Priest's debut match going on versus The Miz. My boy Anthony, as he texted me, like he knew that Damien Priest was going to come out beforehand. And I knew that too because this is WWE we're talking about. We know how predictable their stuff is. So Damien Priest, he had a dive over the top rope, Then we see Bad Bunny distracted The Miz enough to allow Priest to recover later on, right? Then he hit the Falcon Arrow for a near fall. Bunny prevented The Miz from using his briefcase as a weapon, and he hit John Morrison with a microphone. Then Priest grabbed The Miz, hit him with his finisher, the Reckoning, and got his win on Raw. So Damien Priest, he gets the debut win. I'm not excited because I just know this is what's going to happen next week. We're going to get Damien Priest versus John Morrison, right? Because they had The Miz tonight, and because Miz and Morrison are partners, of course, they're going to have, Morrison now challenge Damien Priest, And probably then when Keith Lee comes back from COVID, don't be surprised. They'll probably do a Keith Lee, Damien Priest tag team match against Miz and Morrison. So, I'm happy for Damian Priest. I'm hoping and pray he doesn't get the NXT burial that, most NXT talent get on the main roster. I'm praying for the guy because the guy legit has star main event, potential. But, we'll just have to wait and see and cross our fingers at the end of the day. And another thing, once again, no one gives a shit about Miz as Mr. Money in the Bank. Next up here, we had the Hurt Business versus Lucha House Party for the Raw Tag Team Championships, right? So the reason why Alexander and Benjamin weren't out for, last week's match before is because they had to get ready for this match. Plus, MVP didn't want any of, disagreements with the team, causing an issue for Lashley. So, basically, remember, the Lucha House Party do have gotten in a couple victories over Benjamin and Alexander the last couple weeks. So that was the reason for this match. The match wasn't anything special here, right? Near the end, Benjamin tagged himself in as Alexander was setting up his finisher. The lumbar check, of course, right? But instead, Benjamin tags himself in. He hits his finisher, the pay dirt, for the win to retain the tag team titles. MVP was happy that, his teammates won, right? The Hurt Business remained tag team champions, but Benjamin was upset, right? So Alexander getting a little dose of his own medicine. Remember, Benjamin has done this multiple times to both Lashley and Benjamin during other matches, so Benjamin's just getting a dose of his own medicine, right? Like I said, any chance to break up the Hurt Business would be stupid. They've been a really good part of Monday Night Raw, and breaking them up here with absolutely no plan would absolutely be stupid. So they won, the match here. I don't know where you go really with, the Hurt Business, right? Because who do they face at WrestleMania? Do you do the New Day again after we've already seen that match? Right? That's a pre-show match to me if you're going to give us New Day versus Hurt Business for the 1,000th time. I don't care how good it is. We've seen it enough. But you really don't have any other teams at the moment. So we'll just have to wait and see, right? Like I said, we still got a long way to go. But we do need to start thinking about what potentially could happen with the Raw Tag Team Championships going into WrestleMania. Because I feel like they don't really have any direction here, right? So we'll see. Plus, like I said, I don't want to see the Hurt Business break up. And hopefully that's not where they're teasing, right? So next up, we had a triple threat number one contender women tag team championship match between Asuka and Charlotte versus Lana and Naomi versus Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose. Clearly, the winner of this match would get a future title shot for the women's tag team championships, right? That were just won by Shayna and Nia Jax last night at the Women's Royal Rumble. Let me see if I got any water left, man. Just stroke it off. I need that, man. Woo. It's hard to do these long podcasts, man, especially when you're a little bit underhydrated. Before we get into the women's match, I did forget to mention that Randy Orton did cut a beautiful promo early in the show before this match where he challenged Edge one more time. Randy Orton talked about how he was embarrassed because, remember, Randy Orton said last year that we would never see Edge again after their match at Backlash where Edge tore his triceps. And not only did Edge return, but he went on to win the Royal Rumble from the number one spot, which, like I said, once again, absolutely incredible, right? Absolutely incredible what Edge accomplished. But, Randy Orton was embarrassed for letting that happen, and so he challenged Edge to one more match tonight, where he said he would end Edge's story and make sure he didn't make it to WrestleMania. So I knew this was going to happen. I knew they weren't going to do this on pay-per-view. They were going to do it, sooner than later, right? They decided to do it the night after the Royal Rumble. WWE always does this. A match that you see on pay-per-view, they decide to put on, free TV on Raw or SmackDown just a couple of days or weeks later, right? Just because, they want to say, oh, we're giving you guys a pay-per-view match in our main event tonight, you know. And, you know, I didn't have any complaints because Edge and Orton was great, of course, to end the show, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But it's just another example of WWE logic. No surprise that they decided to book Edge versus Randy Orton one more time tonight, right? Edge cut another fantastic promo later on, responding to Randy Orton, talking about how he had to put Randy Orton in the rear view mirror, right? They can't keep doing this song and dance, and how he had to end it tonight. And it didn't matter how he was going to end it, but it was going to end. So I just love the electricity Edge is doing with his promos, right? Like I said, he might be the best promo in the company right now. Edge is just on fire. Every time he speaks, he does. You can see the passion. You can see the emotion. You can see the story that's being formed. And I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it, right? So anyway, continuing on here, of course, right? So we had Asuka versus Charlotte versus Lana and Naomi versus Dana Brooke, right, in the number one contenders match. I didn't care about this at all, really, because the women's tag team division, in my opinion, bro, it's just gone. I'm gonna keep repeating it until WWE listens to me, right? You need to have the Riot Squad win those tag team championships and go on to defend those tag team titles in NXT. You want to make the you want to make the women's tag team titles feel prestigious. They haven't felt prestigious since Sasha and Bayley held those titles last year, before Bayley turned on Sasha. They have not felt prestigious at all. You want to give those tag team titles a little bit of prestige. Have the Riot Squad win those and have them go face some of the teams from the Women's Mae Young Classic. Defend those on NXT. Right? If you want to bring some NXT teams up to the main roster, up to SmackDown, right? You know, maybe even a pay-per-view match. Maybe a pre-show pay-per-view match. Give those tag team championships a shot to actually, you know, be elevated, to take the next step. They don't mean anything right now. They're not important, you know? And what's sad here is it seems like none of this is being done to elevate the tag team championships. It just feels like they're just doing it to elevate anything they're doing with Charlotte right now. I saw a comment on the Royal Rumble review. I don't remember who specifically said this, but the comment, you know, someone was asking why, you know, did I support, or why do I want to see Alexa Bliss as Raw Women's Champion? I was never a big fan of Alexa Bliss, the goddess. Never was a big fan. But what the character that Alexa Bliss has been portraying in the women's division over, you know, since the WWE draft, when she aligned herself with The Fiend, she's been one of the best things on Monday Night Raw. I've loved Alexa Bliss. I'm now Alexa Bliss fan because of the work she's doing. I was never a fan of the Alexa Bliss, the goddess character. You know, I've ranted on her in the past and how she was buried down our throats. But the Harley Quinn, you know, character they're doing now with Alexa Bliss, and they gave her, now Alexa now has a new logo, right? It's like half goddess, half like fiend, like, and I love it. You know, I love it because that character gives Alexa layers and gives her, you know, a chance to actually be creative. Alexa's not great in the ring. She can give you a good match from here and there, right? You know, when she's there with the right opponent. You know, but the character work that Alexa's doing, she would be fine as the Raw Women's Champion. No, Charlotte, I don't care how great Charlotte is. She doesn't elevate any championship that she's in. Charlotte's role right now should be elevating younger talent. She doesn't elevate. Did Charlotte elevate anybody when she was the NXT Women's Champion last year? Did she elevate the ratings? Did she make NXT better? Did she make anybody in the NXT Women's division better? No, she didn't. When her and Asuka won the tag team championships at TLC back in December, did they make anybody better? All right, no. It's actually made Asuka worse. They've made Asuka play second fiddle, and that's especially what we saw tonight, which we'll talk about because that pissed me off. It really shows you how much they care about Asuka. Because the way they book Charlotte, they'll look better than Asuka at every single point. It's disgusting and nauseating. I hate it. I really do. Right? Charlotte doesn't elevate anybody as a champion. She doesn't. I'm not saying Charlotte's not a star, but I don't want to see her as champion. Just because she can put on good matches doesn't mean anything to me. She's not elevating people like Sasha Banks does. right? Sasha elevates anybody she's in the ring with, no matter if it's Carmella, no matter if it's freaking Reginald from the Performance Center in a intergender match. Like, come on, people. Come on. Ever since Charlotte has come back, everything that's happened in the Raw Women's division has revolved around her, and she's done nothing to make the division better. This whole Lacey Evans and Ric Flair storyline is trash. It's garbage. Nobody cares. It's not doing anything for Lacey Evans. It's not doing anything for Rick. It's not doing anything for Charlotte. It's not doing anything for the women's division. It's making the women's division that much worse on Monday Night Raw every week they continue with the storyline. That's the reason why I'd rather see Alexa Bliss as champion than Charlotte. Alexa Bliss is actually compelling. She's not the best in the ring, but she can give you a good match when she's in the right opponent. And plus, her character work is some of the best in the entire company at the moment. And Asuka has done nothing with the Raw Women's Championship. And it's not, Asuka's fault, of course. I blame WWE for that. Right? But if we're being honest, I would love to see Asuka as the Raw Women's Alexa Bliss be the Raw Women's Champion. It doesn't even have to be a long reign. She doesn't even have to walk into WrestleMania as champion. But, I feel like Alexa deserves a small run. If she was the goddess and they decided to do that, hell no. I don't want to see that. But, Alexa, with this character she's doing, this Harley Quinn Fiend type character, it's perfect. I would love to see, her be in some wacky storylines and, with that title around her waist. I truly do. And that's me being 100% honest. I never thought I would see the day where I would be an Alexa Bliss fan, but I am an Alexa Bliss fan now, So with the match we got tonight, right? Like I said, the match didn't matter at all. This match was garbage. It was not good, right? You have Naomi teaming with Lana. I don't know. Why don't we build Naomi to be a challenger for Asuka here? I still have no idea where you go with the Raw Women's Championship going to WrestleMania, right? Asuka, like I say this every single week, Asuka has not had a legit feud for the Raw Women's Championship since Sasha Banks' Ash Survivor Series. She's not had a legit feud. She has been wasted. Absolutely wasted. And it's sad. It's sad. All right? What you should be doing is actually building up credible opponents for Asuka. And I think, Naomi would be perfect, for the Elimination Chamber or Fastlane, right? I would even mind Naomi winning the title if you decided to do that. We've all wanted, right? We all wanted, remember, Naomi deserves better. Remember when that was trending on social media last year? This is your chance. I don't want to see Naomi versus Lana. Who cares about that, right? Also, I don't care about Lana at all. I don't. But wasn't Lana teaming with Asuka before Charlotte came back, before she got injured? So you're telling me Lana has no ill will? She has no anger, no hatred towards Asuka? For Asuka just turning around and teaming with Charlotte, becoming tag team champions, becoming a double champion? She just comes back and she's like, oh, it doesn't matter, right? She has no frustration, no anger for losing her opportunity at becoming a tag team champion. Wow. Great job there, WWE. Great job, right? You think I would forget that? This is why you guys watch this podcast and listen, because I educate you guys on the stuff that you don't pay attention to. Okay? So, basically, here at the end, this is what got me pissed off. So at the end, of course, this being a 6-man tag, everything broke down. So Charlotte's, doing her comeback. She's getting momentum here. I believe it was on Lana, right? And then Ric Flair came out with Lacey Evans once again, providing another distraction, wasting our time. So what happens here? Charlotte tags Asuka into the match. So Charlotte tags Asuka in, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. This is what we're going to do, right? Charlotte tags Asuka in. Asuka's like, where are you going? Because Charlotte starts leaving the ring. So you have Charlotte leaving the Raw Women's Champion by herself. So you're embarrassing Asuka here, leaving her to fight for herself. Lana tags in Naomi. Naomi hits Asuka with the rear view and gets the win. So clearly, we're going to get Lana versus Naomi versus Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax for the Women's Tag Team Championships at some point. Right? So, Charlotte leaves to go after. She just walked her way up the ramp. So if you're asking me, that should be it. Charlotte and Asuka should not be, tagging anymore. If I'm Asuka, I would be pissed. I don't care if Lacey Evans or Ric Flair provides a distraction. You're my tag team partner. You don't leave me in the middle of the match to go deal with your family drama. We're trying to win a championship here. Plus, Asuka's the Raw Women's Champion. You have Charlotte just tagging Asuka like she's a piece of dirt. Like, hey, bitch, just get back, get in the ring. You take care of this. I got other shit to do. Right? It's disrespectful to Asuka. It makes Asuka look lesser than Charlotte. When, personally, I believe that Asuka is better than Charlotte in every single way. I don't care what anybody says. All right? And it's disrespectful. It really is disrespectful at the end of the day. And it shows you how much WWE puts Charlotte above everybody else. Really. Because that's the way you treat your Raw Women's Champion. Clearly, if you guys don't realize tonight, the Raw Women's Champion got pinned. That's another issue. She's the Raw Women's Champion. So now, technically, right? Technically, Naomi not only won a tag team title shot with Lana against Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax in the future, but technically, Naomi has claimed to be the number one contender for the Raw Women's Championship. She pinned Asuka clean in that match. Remember last year when Naomi pinned Bayley in the Beat the Clock challenge, right? When Sasha and Bayley were both feuding with Asuka last summer, and Naomi never got the match. When Bayley did have no opponent to face going into the fall. Are you going to do that to us now? I would love to see Naomi versus Asuka, but the way they did it tonight was garbage. Asuka did not deserve that treatment. And it shows you how much they believe Charlotte's better than everybody else. And it's disgusting. This is the Charlotte booking that I hate. Because we all know Charlotte's eventually going to get payback here on Lacey Evans and Ric Flair. I don't know when. I don't know how. I don't care. The storyline is garbage. But clearly, once Charlotte gets her payback on Lacey Evans, she's going to go after Asuka in the Raw Women's Championship. If you don't think Charlotte's going to be in the Raw Women's Championship match at WrestleMania, you clearly have another thing coming. You guys know, how this company operates. You guys know how it operates by now. And, it's sad. It's sad that everything gets pushed aside because it's Charlotte Flair. I hate that. I hate that. And if you guys approve with what with this way Charlotte's booked all the time, maybe you guys should not be listening to this podcast, honestly. Because this is the stuff I hate about Charlotte. She gets shoved down everybody's throat and they elevate her above everybody else. Asuka did not deserve that treatment tonight. She didn't. And if you guys think she did, you guys are part of the problem with this creative team. Honestly. That was very, very bad. The way they ended that tonight. Very, very bad. So moving on, we had Carlito and Jeff Hardy versus Elias and Jackson Ryker, right? So Carlito, right, he made a surprise return. We had been hearing for months that Carlito was going to come back. Carlito was supposed to actually come back at a Raw Legends Night, right? If you guys remember last year, MVP made his return in the Rumble, and then he's been back with the company ever since. Remember, that was only supposed to be a one-night thing. Then it turned into a two-night thing, which turned into a couple months, and now he's back with the company full-time, right? With the Hurt Business, which has been, pretty good on Monday Night Raw for the most part. I don't know if Carlito is back full-time. I don't, but he looked amazing. He looks in incredible shape. I enjoyed seeing him in the Rumble last night. I spit in the face of people who don't want to be cool. I love Carlito's gimmick, bro. So Carlito is back. He was in the Rumble. He had a match tonight with Jeff Hardy against Elias and Jackson Ryker. You guys know, I don't care at all about anything they do with Elias and Jeff Hardy. The fact that they're still doing this feud, this shows you how uncreative they can be on Monday Night Raw most of the time. Who the fuck cares? Who cares? Why are we doing this? But the big thing here is Carlito. Carlito looked good tonight. He looked good tonight. And if you want, I would have no problem with Carlito sticking around here in the mid-card division. I know, man. The thing about it is Monday Night Raw has so much talent. And, that mid-card division could be fantastic if they decided to put more focus on it. For real, man. They have so much talent, bro. They're stacked with talent, and most of the people in that company are not even being booked correctly, right? But man, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about. But the match here wasn't anything special, but Carlito looked good, right? He came in after he got the hot tag, he hit a backstabber, and then he tagged in Hardy for the Swanton Bomb to get the pin. So they got the win here, right? Nothing too special. I don't care really about this because I'm so over the whole Jeff Hardy versus Elias shit, right? But like I said, Carlito looks good, and if they want him to stick around and be in the mid-card division, I don't have any problem with it. No problem. Let me look. How old is Carlito, by the way? Carlito. He's 41 years old. So, yeah, he's old, right? But like I said, he looks fantastic. He looks fantastic. If he wants to stick around for a little bit, stick in that mid-card division, hell, maybe you build him up to win the U.S. Championship, right? Remember, he was a former U.S. and IC title. He actually won a tag team title. Carlito won, a good amount of titles during his time in WWE. So if they want to keep him on Raw, right, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it, man. He looks good. So we'll see what happens if this is just a one-night thing. But like I said, I would not mind keeping the King of Cool around, man. He looks really, really good. Next up, we had Alexa Bliss versus Nikki Cross. We've seen this match before, of course, right? But I didn't have any problem with this, with anything they did here. So basically, this was his former best friends, former tag team champions, partners going back up against each other, right? So basically, near the end here, right, this wasn't a bad match. It wasn't terrible. Nikki was on the offensive here, right? She was offensive. She wasn't messing around, really. She didn't try to turn Alexa back into being her best friend. She wasn't playing those games. But Bliss went to use the mandible claw, but Cross countered and stopped her in the corner. But, somehow Alexa transformed back into her old self, right? The goddess, and then she was like, let's go, Nikki. Let's go, my best friend, right? So for a couple of seconds, but Nikki didn't buy it. Nikki didn't, they didn't make Nikki look stupid and go in trying to hug Alexa or anything like that. That friendship's over. So Nikki kept attacking Alexa. Eventually, Alexa transformed back and went back into, she transformed back into Alexa's playground character, right? And then she knocked down Cross with a shoulder tackle and then hit a modified Sister Abigail for the win, right? So, like I said, this was pretty good for what it was. I love, I love that they keep doing the transformation thing. It was kind of wacky last night at the Royal Rumble how, Alexa was about to transform mid-match and then Rhea Ripley eliminated her. And then how the transformation just stopped, right? The music and everything just stopped. And remember, this is a gimmick with Alexa that wouldn't work if there was a live crowd. You're not going to be able, right? You're not going to be able to transform Alexa during the middle of a match. Clearly, this is pre-recorded, probably early in the night they had Alexa in her normal ring gear, and then they have Alexa changed back into the Fiend gear, right? And I like the way they did it. I love what Alexa's doing right now, and I have no problem with them doing the same transformation here, because eventually we are going to get back to normal, God willing. We're going to have fans at WrestleMania, and hopefully with the vaccine coming, right? We're gonna have WWE's trying to get a touring schedule together again, right? So, Cross looked good here. She did her job. This is more about Alexa. Expect them to keep doing the transformation thing, right? Because they're gonna keep doing it because they can do it right now. Because once we get back to live crowds, they're not gonna be able to have Alexa transform during the middle of the match, but. We'll see. I enjoy it for the most part. I know not everyone's going to enjoy the Alexa gimmick, but I enjoy it, So we'll see what happens here, right? Because after the match, Alexa celebrated, and then they went right into the main event with Randy Orton coming out. And Alexa and Randy Orton had no encounter. They just pretty much ignored each other. So I don't know if that's the end, because remember, Alexa should be angry at Alexa. Alexa should be angry at Randy Orton. Randy Orton cost her the Raw Women's Championship last week on Monday Night Raw, right? She cost her the Raw Women's title with the RKO. And Alexa hasn't done anything to get Randy back. Maybe they're just ending it. Like I said, I don't know what happens here because The Fiend still hasn't returned, which surprises me, right? I don't know if they're saving that for Elimination Chamber or Fastlane or for WrestleMania. Maybe we'll see the storyline pick back up. But like I said, if they're not ready to, pull the trigger back on this whole storyline with The Fiend, I would have Alexa Bliss go back and challenge Asuka again for the Raw Women's title. I would have no problem with Alexa winning the title at this point with this character, with her current character, right? Let me know. But yeah, it was interesting. So next up, we had Edge versus Randy Orton here in the main event, right? Edge was walking and he actually shook hands with Damien Priest before the match. He was like, welcome to the main roster. So that's a pretty cool moment for Damien Priest, getting a nice little welcome from Edge. Edge said, we need new guys like you here. I'm excited for your future. So really cool moment there for Damien Priest, right? So we got the match here with about 17 minutes left in the show. And this was good. So, Edge started off strong, trying to take Orton down quickly. And if you think about it, all Orton and Edge's matches have been different, right? The match at WrestleMania, it was one of the longest matches ever. It was like a 40-minute match, 40-minute like Falls Count Anywhere match. Then at, Backlash, right? The greatest match ever. Remember when that was the marketing tool? That was about 30 minutes, and it was a straight up wrestling match. This was just a straight up fight here, And this was close to 20 minutes because they actually went over into the 11 o'clock hour by a couple minutes. So it looks like they were able to pay USA for a couple extra minutes here with that, with the end of the show tonight. So Edge went for a submission. Orton countered it, and, Orton started to take over. Edge put out the execution, for a near fall. Orton then took him out of the ring and whipped him into the steel steps. We came back from commercial. Orton was still in control. Edge was able to turn the tables on the top turnbuckle, all right, and then he had a flying clothesline. He knocked Orton off the apron into the barricade. Edge was able to bounce back. Not Edge. Orton was able to bounce back. He hit the DDT and he went for the RKO. But at the end, we seen Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss shows up. So remember, like I said, earlier, Alexa Bliss ignored Randy Orton when Randy Orton was making his entrance. But Bliss was like, I'm not done here. Alexa continues to be one of the best things on Monday Night Raw. All right. She was sitting on the top turnbuckle with blood coming out of her mouth, and Edge would use this opportunity to hit Orton with a spear for the win, putting the exclamation point on this rivalry. So Edge gets, revenge for Orton taking him out, right? So Edge not only wins the Rumble, eliminating Orton in the process. And I remember Edge in his promo was talking about how both Edge and Orton started off the Rumble at number 1 and number 2. Edge was in there, over an hour, and Orton was only in there for 8 minutes because remember, Orton had the leg injury. But this was really good to end the show. Really good stuff here. Alexa Bliss continues to be great. And it's a nice little exclamation point to end the Orton and Edge rivalry. Maybe, we see a title match between these two later this year. That's not something I wouldn't rule out. But for the most part, this was a good way to end the show and a good way to end their feud, right? So it looks like Orton's going to continue going with the Fiend. I expect now the Fiend to most likely come back any week now. It could be next week. It could be the week after that. I expect the Fiend to come back because that's clearly going to be the direction for Orton going forward. I don't know what else you're going to do. The Orton and Edge thing is done, and I don't really see Orton being in the WWE title picture going to WrestleMania unless something wacky happens. So we'll see, what happens here with Orton, Alexa, and the Fiend. That, seems like, that's going to be continuing. Alexa getting payback on Orton tonight for Orton costing her the Raw Women's Championship last week. But all in all, this was it was an okay show. It wasn't terrible, right? It was highlighted, of course. Edge was great. Alexa Bliss was great, right? Damien Priest, he made a great debut tonight. I just pray he doesn't get buried like the rest of the NXT talent. But all in all, this wasn't a terrible show. It wasn't a perfect show, right? For the most part, but it was just okay. It was right? I'm not, not a lot of ranting outside the show bullshit, of course. But like I said, this wasn't a terrible show. But other than that, guys, that's about all I got for you guys today on the podcast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, do me a favor, leave a like on the video. Make sure to comment and subscribe if you guys are new. If you guys enjoyed, of course, make sure to hit that bell right next to my name, Fitzmonk TV, so you guys are notified every time I post a new video. Follow me on social media. Thank you to everyone who live tweeted with me. If you guys want to talk anime, wrestling, anything, you guys know how to get in contact. I also said this yesterday. I am looking for somebody to make us new layouts for pay-per-views going forward, and Raw and SmackDown, because I have no idea what's going on with Sal Reacts. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know. Contact me down below. Speaking of that, the Royal Rumble review is live on the channel right now. So if you guys missed it, go check it out. It was almost like an hour and 40 minutes. So it was a pretty long podcast. But we went over everything, talk about the Royal Rumble and where things could be going to WrestleMania. So go check that out if you guys haven't already. Other than that, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. Like I said, thank you guys for the love and support. This is the way it's going to be going forward with these pre-recorded podcasts. But it is what it is. Hopefully, eventually, right, we'll be able to get back to normal. But other than that, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. I'll see you guys later. You guys stay safe and healthy, y'all. Peace.